Hello, everyone. I'm Shalika De Silva. I would like to welcome all of you to our month of October Clarity of Mind through Mindfulness session. Actually, today we have another interesting topic that Bhanti is going to talk to us about. It is well-being. With great respect, I would like to invite Most Venerable Panadure Chandarathana Thero to commence today's session. Teruan Sarnai Bhante.
Everyone, I hope you can hear me and see me.
Yes.
Okay. So as Shalika mentioned, we are going to discuss about an interesting topic. Let me share my screen. So this kind of a new concept which has emerged in the modern society. They are talking about well-being. So I thought of therefore taking some information about their definitions and how the society is defining well-being first to get some understanding. So what is well-being? So basically this information I have found from one uh, Australian website. I have put the reference so you also can refer that. So it mentions well-being is not just the absence of disease or illness. It's a complex combination of a person's physical, mental, emotional, and social health factors. And then well-being is strongly linked to happiness and life satisfaction. In short, well-being could be described as how you feel about yourself and your life. Now, this is a kind of a positive outfit that we may feel, basically feeling positive and feeling somewhat happy. So we can see whether it is kind of an elation, a complete rapture, or kind of a mature happiness. So it seems like, so there are many governing factors. So we can go through that. So as this explanation mentioned, it's a kind of a balance between physical, mental, emotional, and social health factors. So there are many components. It is not just one thing. So there are many components, many attributes which influence one's well-being. So altogether, when things are in a positive atmosphere, things are happening smoothly, then we feel happy, contented. So then we can say we are in a very good well-being. Our physical well-being, mental well-being, emotional well-being is in a satisfied level. So what are the factors influencing well-being? So there are many, many factors. So some are listed here. So one is network of close friends. So when you have close friends, so they make you happy, they make you comfortable, and you feel safe with them. And during your some sort of a problem, they will help you. So likewise, you feel a comfort when you are being with friends. On the other hand, enjoyable and fulfilling career and mundane people, they want this career. So everyone wants some money to live with, some wealth is required. So if your career is a good one, so then you feel happy. And enough money, of course. So that will give you enough money, enough wealth. So that is also a kind of satisfying factor. And now if we move towards some other things, regular exercises and a good diet, a nutritional diet, and enough sleep. So that is also necessary. So our body requires certain amount of rest. A good rest is required. So if you are unable to have a good sleep, then you feel little unsatisfied and you feel kind of imbalance if there is no good sleep is available. So that is also therefore affecting our well-being. And spiritual or religious beliefs. And everybody, most of the time, they are having certain religious beliefs. If they are giving you a kind of a safety, if they are giving you a feeling of safety, that you are worthy and you are doing well, and your future life is, or your future is also somewhat safe. So that will give you another attribute to your mind so that you feel a worthy person. You feel that you are a good person. So that is also another attribute telling us, okay, we are in a good emotional well-being. And then certain other happy, pleasurable activities are there. Say you are involved with certain sports or some kind of leisure pursuits. So those are also another attribute that we are looking forward. And self-esteem. So as a person, how you feel. So in the society, what you feel, what is your position? So what is your designation? So kind of a self-esteem. So there are many things helping you to develop as a person and as a personality. So that is also another thing, that you feel that you are not a thrown out person or kind of a downcast. Rather, you are kind of a low caste. So you are very much like a respectable person. So you feel a certain uplifted morale in that sense. So that is also another attribute. An optimistic outlook. So if everything is collapsing, everything is in a real chaotic way, then you feel upset. But on the other hand, if things are in a more optimistic way, so then again we feel quite happy, safe. So that's are there. And realistic and achievable goals. Now, this doesn't mean that actually we are simply pessimistic and just hanging behind. Rather, we have to have as human beings certain goals. So that is also giving us kind of an importance. So giving us a goal, giving us an objective. So there's an objective to live. So that is also giving you another positive, optimistic feeling. Sense of purpose and meaning. So that is another thing. So your life has a meaning, your life has a purpose. So what your presence is therefore important. So you feel that. This is another aspect. Sense of belonging, that you feel that you belong to this society, you feel that you are an important member of the society, you feel you are an important member of the, say, your department or your family. So that is also another thing. If parents don't neglect a child, then they feel the opposite. And if the, say, other members of the family neglect you, then you feel the opposite. If the network of friends ignore you, do not respect you, and you're being sort of ignored, then you feel kind of uncomfortable in such situation. But the opposite, if they are giving you the proper position and you feel that you are belonging to a particular place, that is another aspect. The ability to adapt to change. So change is inevitable. So how quickly we can adapt to that. So there are immense amounts of changes on the way, and how quickly we can adapt to that. So that's another thing. And living in a fair and democratic society. So there are certain political aspects, and if things are going well, so then we are further feeling comfortable. So these are very interesting and look forward attributes that most of us are somewhat familiar with, and some of these are to some extent satisfied, and some of them are not satisfied. And today we are living in a fairly challenging society, challenging environment, challenging situations. The world is going through various chaotic situations. So we can see the well-being is somewhat challenged. So we can't feel that these well-being factors are well implemented or well satisfied. So these are many factors. So some of them maybe to some extent are satisfied, but some of others are not satisfied. So therefore we can see that none of us are 100% feeling perfect well-being. On contrary, there may be certain lapses. So on the other hand, most of the people are going after wealth, doing overtime, and trying to find enough money. So that is how they are thinking. And so we can see that if we are spending more time on that, so we are losing another side. So income is necessary, wealth is required, some amount of money in your bank account or in your hand is required. But if you are simply taking that as your sole purpose of your life, then that's a mistake. So certain good relationships, and so being with your family friends of your family members, so that is also required. So if you are sacrificing all of them to work overtime and spending more time at your office, so that is also something that you need to consider. So therefore, it indicates that wealth is not the main thing. It is something, but it is not the main thing. And if we consider the global perspective, so how we can measure well-being? So it is very, very difficult. As I mentioned, there are many factors, so it is quite difficult to measure as a population what is the well-being factor of a particular country. It's quite difficult to measure. So therefore, it's a kind of a subjective matter. And some people consider something is good for them, and another group may consider it is not good for them. It's a kind of a subjective matter. And the way you are looking at it, so your attribute, or so rather your attitude, is also matters. Some person may look at a certain situation as interesting, challenging, exciting, and to another person it may be frustrating and agitating. So therefore, so this personal attitude is also something matters in this well-being. So therefore, well-being comes somewhat personal. So there are situations in the country, but one person can manage it, is happy about it. Another person is not happy about it, he is somewhat frustrated about it. So therefore, we can say it is not the entirely a political or a worldly universal type of thing. Rather, it has a significant amount of personal attitude that also matters. How we are looking ahead about our lives. So what are our priorities? So all these things are in a way matters in this situation. So one person's problem can become another person's challenge. So he take it as a challenging situation. He likes that rather than feeling bored in a certain situation. So these are another attributes. And then therefore, anyway, this as mentioned here at last, so this is a kind of complicated thing. So it's difficult to find out a common factor indicating a particular society's well-being. But anyway, individually, we can see whether I am in a very good, happy mood today. Is everything is satisfied? Am I physically good? Mentally also, I am in a more positive mindset. I feel safe. So all these things, actually, individually, personally, we have to look at. So in the typical way, so there are many things people are talking about how to achieve well-being and maintaining healthy relationships, a good family relationship, and kind of a social contact with the others, friends or your colleagues, and involving with certain work which are somewhat enjoyable, not just doing it for the best pay. Because sometimes people are involved with a particular occupation because they have nothing else to do, and it's difficult to find a job, but they are very much like going through a very difficult situation because this is not the job that they really love, but they have to do it anyway. So that makes you a little unhappy, frustrated. But if we are able to find out a job, a career, which is more pleasurable, or we can say rewarding, or we are feeling happy and we feel that I am doing something good for myself, doing something good for the others. So then that career makes you more happy, comfortable. And then finding good food and doing regular exercises. And certain activities are there which are making us more interested. So we can find some of them. And there are certain organizations, clubs, and societies available in the society to which we can join and participate. There are events. That is also another thing. And finding a certain goal in our life. So rather than just stagnating, just wandering, so finding out a particular goal, keeping a kind of a milestone in our life. And finding out how to become optimistic. So in a very challenging society, actually nowadays we are living in a really challenging society. So how to find out a kind of optimistic mindset. So these are very interesting areas that we can think of when we are talking this well-being. So well-being is therefore, we can say, kind of a happiness that we are talking now. So now you have certain amount of understanding of well-being, and from today's terms and today's modern, say, societal terms, so you have a certain amount of understanding. Now we can look at the Buddhist perspective. So what is well-being from a Buddhist perspective? So there are various terms actually we can relate with well-being. So one is called santutti, the contentment. Santutti paramang dhanam. So Buddha mentioned that the, say, contentment is the best of wealth. There are various wealth factors, but contentment is the best wealth. Santutti paramang dhanam. And there are various things. And then Buddha say, Vissasa paramanyati, and say you have many friends, and the trustworthy friends becomes your best relative. So when you have such trustworthy person, so he can actually alleviate all the other, say, difficulties and your family problems and your say financial problems. If you have a really trustworthy good friend, so that's a very, very interesting and comforting factor. Vissasa paramanyati. So Buddha mentioned that. So if you have a very trustworthy, a companion, a partner, a friend, a good friend, so that's a really satisfying factor. Arogyam paramang labha. So if the body is quite healthy, so that's again one of the best gain you have. So typically bodies are subjected to various ailments. So if you are able to have a fairly good healthy body, if you are quite healthy today, so that's a very comforting factor. Otherwise you have to go towards various doctors, and many situations are there. So taking care of the body is one of the important factors. And ultimately Buddha mentioned Nibbanang Paramang Sukham. So in the ultimate sense, so Nibbana, so we'll discuss what it is, becomes the best happiness. And on the other hand, Sukha, there are many areas that the happiness, Sukha, is mentioned in many, many suttas. So how you feel happy, it may be through the meditation. Say you are going through some mindfulness meditation. So while you are achieving certain amount of mindfulness, you feel comfortable, you feel lighter, your mind feel kind of floating, like you feel comfortable. Actually, as a result of that, not only the mind, even the body feel comfortable. Even the body feel pleasurable. Even the body feel kind of happy. So there's another term called passaddhi, where mental tranquility as well as the bodily tranquility. Your mind is also in a tranquil state. Body is also in a tranquil state. What we are called as passaddhi, tranquility. So therefore, these are, in a way, we are achieving through meditation, through the mindfulness practices. So when you are properly going through a systematic practice, so slowly one can say, okay, when I am achieving certain amount of concentration, we would say, and then I feel happy, I feel comfortable. My mind become less distracted. All the frustrations are, say, kept aside. My mind feel lighter, and I feel comfortable. I feel joyful. And say then we are talking of niramisa piti. It's a kind of an unworldly joy, unworldly happiness. It is not that something you are happy by seeing a beautiful picture, beautiful film, or another scenery. It is not that you are listening to music. It is not that you are going through some good, what you call incense, or good food, nutritious food, or say bodily tangibles. So rather now this is a different aspect. We can see that one can gain happiness not by this typical mundane gains, sights, sounds, smells, tastes, and tangibles, but there are other areas also makes us happy. Because everyone is competing for sight, sound, smells, tastes, and tangibles. They are very limited resources. So everyone is talking about them. Everyone is trying to grab them as much as possible. But all these unworldly type of joy is readily available. It's what is important, what is necessary. There is certain amount of practice. So therefore, Buddha now taking us to a different area, a different perspective. So happiness is available, joy is available. If necessary, rapture is also available, contentment is also available. But you don't need the sight, sound, smells, taste to a large amount. A certain amount may be necessary just to maintain the body, but not the best maybe. So even a little you can feel happy. These are different areas now we are talking. Even with little you can be contented. Even with little food, maybe even with very, say, minimal material gains, still you feel happy. Still you feel content. If your mind feel positive, your mind feel optimistic. Now these are kind of achievable things. Now we are now moving more towards the mental aspect, mental well-being, and physical well-being is well connected to this. It is not something we can neglect. We actually have to consider that even with some say difficult situations, if we have certain mental equipoise, so that is something that we can look forward. And another terms are there like upekka, so you are being equanimous. And then the other side is siti bhuto, so you feel cool, you feel comfortable, you feel calm, relaxed. So these are Pali terms: santutti, sukha, niramasa piti, upekka, siti bhuto, nibbana in the ultimate sense. There is no any kind of burning, you are like quenched. So these are the terms actually we can recognize in the Buddhist terms, in the Buddhist say culture, or in the Buddhist education, or the Dhamma, what we call in the Buddha's teaching. So these are the terms that we can see more relevant with the well-being. Now we need to understand these two are very connected, interconnected, mind and the body. So previously actually the science, actually they have given more emphasis on the body, not much about the mind. So it has somewhat taken the whole society to a materialistic approach. But now they are talking a lot about the mental well-being and how mind and the body are interconnected. So I have given here certain Western research findings. So certain scientists and the philosophers and all these scholars are now accepting that. So now they have integrated the mental well-being. So they have accepted that the mind and the body are well connected. They are interrelated. So this is something Buddha mentioned long time ago, but interesting that now the modern science is giving due respect to that. So you can see it is only in the past 20 years that Western physicians, biologists, and psychologists have begun to comprehend the interrelationship between emotional states and mental and physical well-being. Buddhist thinkers, however, have been aware of the mind's healing capacity for more than 2000 years. Now this is mentioned by Goleman in one of his books. I have given the references. If you're interested, you can go through it. So basically, emotional well-being indicates a harmony of the body and mind. So you can't have emotional well-being if the, say, body is really sick, unless you are a very developed meditator, a very developed person. Then even when the body is not healthy, probably you are able to maintain a undisturbed mind. So that's a kind of a challenge. That's a kind of an instruction actually Buddha has given, because it is unavoidable. So we all have to go through various bodily pains, aches, and diseases, sicknesses. So all these things are within our, in this society or within our body, unavoidable. Someday we have to go through it. So when such problems are there, is it possible to maintain the mind in a more peaceful atmosphere? So this is a kind of a challenge. That is why we need to think of more deeper considerations, how to make the mind quiet, how to make the mind balanced, how to make the mind happy if possible, or contented, even when body is sick. Now we are trying to achieve well-being, but it's something we have to, in a way, train the mind in order to achieve it. As I mentioned even before, a certain challenging situation, for one person, it could be a complete devastating and depressive situation. But to another person, it is a really challenge. He likes it. He take it as a kind of an excitement. He wants to go through it. He wants to go through it and become more matured. So you can see the mentality really matters. So we are talking about well-being, but the well-being fairly depends on how we are approaching it, how our attitude talking about it, how we are taking it in a way. What is our grasp? Now, so what are the causes of suffering? So many causes are there. I am just mentioning one here. Yam pichang nalabati tampi dukkha. So there are things that we really love, we really want. Unfortunately, we couldn't get it. So there's a disparity between our expectation and the what we have received, what we are able to achieve. So this disparity, this difference makes us really unhappy, make us uncomfortable. So therefore, there's a significant relevance comes here for our desires, our expectations. So we have many expectations, and some are obviously cannot achieve. Now, say for example, you want to participate in a kind of an event which you can't even imagine now. So you want to become a king, or you want to go to the moon. You know, people are talking about even the space journeys and all these things. But being a typical person, if I am having a kind of a goal which are almost like unrealistic, so that can make me quite unhappy, frustrated, because I can't achieve it. Which is a kind of far away type of goal. So then we need to see, so what are our expectations? Are they really kind of doable ones, or realistic ones, or are they really completely extraordinary ones? And are they really relevant? Are they really required? Or are they really desire driven? So we need to understand, okay, there is a kind of a internal thirst going on. We are internally unhappy. Internally, I feel unsatisfied. Something is missing. So therefore, Buddha in general mentioned about the society, uno loko, atitto, tanha daso, uno loko. So every time people are feeling something is missing. Now say, in terms of the factors of well-being, say you have achieved something, you have a car. So you have your children, you have your wife or husband, you have a good job, you have a, say, garden, you have certain friends, you have a house. So we can say for another person, I mean, this is something that's very important, and you all have that. But still you feel unhappy. Still you feel certain amount of unsatisfaction in the mind. But on the other hand, comparatively, you are in a very good situation. Say certain others may not have food even. So many countries are going through wars and they don't have even health facilities. Even though they are sick, they can't go to the hospital. Even though they are hungry, they don't have anything to eat. And their future is completely kind of unsafe. Very difficult to understand what's going to happen in the next moment. But say you, on the other hand, comparatively, you are in a very good situation. Say you are in front of your, say, computer, and say your friends are there, your family is around, you have had something to already had your lunch or dinner or breakfast, and something is available in your refrigerator, you can eat something, and you have some money in your account, health insurance is available, so many things are there, but still unhappy. So this is the thing that we need to understand. Okay, even when things are available, so why are we feeling unhappy? Why are we feeling internally sort of unsatisfied? And we all have certain goals in that sense. So we all have certain more expectations. Sometimes they are unachievable, not realistic, and sometimes they are desire driven. So there are various desires operating within our mind. So now we need to understand what are those desires. So they are the ones, in a way, culprits, making us unhappy, telling us always, I need this, I need that, I feel this, I want this, please give me this. So there are ongoing struggle inside, asking many things, many demands. Even though you have many things, still you are unhappy because many demands coming from inside. That's a huge thirst inside, yearning inside. So that is a very interesting area that we need to explore. So why all these things are available, things are happening in a smooth way, why I can't be happy? So this we need to question ourselves. And that is where we need to understand our inner mental situation, workings of the mind, how this mind is working. What are these internal conflicts going on? How these are affecting my overall well-being? So now I am looking at more subtle aspects in the mind, which are actually some governing factors into our mind, into our well-being. And on the other hand, our minds are going through certain defilements. So we have lust, we have hatred, we have delusion. Typically considered in the Dhamma are the most poisonous kind of ingredients in our mind. So all the other defilements are based upon those three ingredients: lust, hatred, and delusion. And when they are there, so we feel uncomfortable, and therefore we have certain amount of negative feeling when they are there, and we have certain amount of even averse about them, and we feel negative about them. So that is more into the moralist approach, where we consider ourselves are that we have to be more moral, we have to be more virtuous, but there are internal defilements which are making us to another side, taking us to a wrong direction. So therefore we feel that defilements are like enemies. But later, as we are going through the Vipassana practice particularly, now we are developing certain skills. Say now we have a certain amount of mindfulness, we have a certain amount of concentration, and we can keep the mind somewhat quiet, less thinking, and body also feel comfortable as a result of this training, as a result of the practice. And now assume that you are able to look at the mind. It is not that you are as a beginner, rather now you are able to look at the mind from a mindful space. Now you are understanding an entirely different way. Now these are mere thoughts. There are desires, but they are representing thoughts. They are mere thoughts. Now you separate your awareness and the thoughts. To this awareness field, thoughts are coming. So thoughts are like strangers. They are like guests. They are like beggars asking something. But it is up to you to satisfy them or to ignore them or to, allow them to go. So now you have a better hand. You are in a better position. You are not simply desire driven now. You can look at desires. You can understand desires. You can understand these thoughts. And you can see they are not yours. You can see they are not you. They are not myself. They are not yourself. Now we are completely changing the gears. We are completely changing our way of looking at things. Now we are able to look at defilements are as merely thoughts? Or what are the perceptions behind them? So what are the thoughts generating these desires, so aggravating these desires? Now we are going a little deeper, how desires have become kind of various emotions. Previously, it appeared like a small thought or kind of a little mental image in the mind. So we have fed that, we have found interested about it, and as a result of that, we start feeding it, strengthening it. Ultimately, it became a huge emotion. Now we are troubled by that. We become a slave to that. So if we are able to recognize this process going on inside the mind, so slowly, slowly, we are finding our own kind of a refuge where you can see your own thoughts. You can see your own emotions. You can see how thoughts are related to the past. You can see how thoughts are related to the future, various imaginations, fantasies, and mind made situations, various fabrications. They are not the realities. Reality is something, but what we have fabricated, what we have created inside is a completely different thing. Now you can see how mind is making us unhappy. So unnecessarily we participate, unnecessarily we are trying to hold these thoughts, trying to satisfy these desires, trying to gratify these desires, so feeling that these desires are something I am liable, they are my desires. So then how I am messing up the whole thing. So how about allowing them to come, but I am not rejecting, but disclaiming them. So this is a mere desire. This is a mere thought. This is a mere mental image. How about letting it go? So now we are learning a different way of looking at things. So now we are able to understand dukkha, able to understand suffering, some kind of a frustration, some kind of an unsatisfaction in the mind. At the same time, we are trying to understand what's the reason for that. What has made it? Maybe a kind of an expectation, maybe a kind of a desire. And how about recognizing that desire and let it go rather than fulfilling it, rather than satisfying it? And again, it is not my desire. It is a mere desire. It is simply coming and going. It has its kind of an impermanent nature. I don't need to worry about it too much. Anyway, it will pass away. So I'm now looking at their kind of behavior rather than simply jumping to satisfy it. Now I have certain breaks. I can look at it when it is appearing. I can simply look at it, letting it go. So I have now certain amount of command. Now this is actually leading us towards emotional balance. So it is not that every time we are 100% happy and every time with a smile. So many situations arise in our life, and so how to face them with a smile? So how quickly we can come back to our normal state? So therefore, balancing is a very important factor that Buddha has mentioned. How to balance our these various mental qualities. So when we are practicing meditation, mindfulness meditation, particularly, so Buddha talks about this balancing of factors at many different levels. Say, for example, at the faculties, what we call as the indriya. So we are developing faith, saddha, we are developing panya, the wisdom. So these two have to be well balanced. And again, we are developing effort, the virya, and we are developing samadhi, the concentration. These two also are to be balanced. And mindfulness is the one who is monitoring the whole state of the mind. So mindfulness has to be present every time. And mindfulness tell us, okay, what is the area now you need to develop? What is the area which is more excess, making the mind imbalance? Now, how to make the mind balance? Now you can see we are developing one attribute called mindfulness. which starts a self-monitoring process. Kind of a healthy process. It's always with us, helping us and assessing the mind. So how the state of the mind? Is it comfortable? Is it unhappy? Or you need to have a little bit of tranquility, or you need to have a little bit of activity, or you need to improve your wisdom, or you need to have a little bit of saddha, the faith. So the state of the mind is always like monitored. So when you have such kind of a self-monitoring process activated in yourself, in your mind, so that helps us to maintain a very good emotional balance, maintain very good well-being, mental well-being. Because the point is, if we don't have such process available in our mind, who is going to tell us? Is your wife always necessary to come and tell you, okay, son, darling, that please don't be like this, be happy? Or your husband wants you to come and tell you, darling, please be happy? Are you expecting your children to come and tell you? Are you expecting your parents to come and tell you? It's very difficult. It's not realistic. But if we have kind of a self-monitoring process activated within our mind, so that's a very, very interesting, say, asset if we can have, then that will take care of indicating to us, okay, now look at yourself. Now balance this particular area. Now improve this particular area. So then only you are able to have a very balanced mind. So therefore, this balancing of these faculties, one area that Buddha mentioned. And further, as we are moving forward, progressing in our practice, Buddha mentioned about how even you need to balance enlightenment factors, what we call as the Bojjhangas. So there are 7 enlightenment factors. Among them, 3 are actually making the mind more active. Another 3 are making the mind more tranquil. This tranquility and activity are to be well balanced. If too much tranquility is there, then it will take us to more lethargic state. If too much activity is there, it will take us to a more restless state. So you can see, even they are good. Certain amount of activity is required, certain amount of vigilance is required, kind of an investigative quality is required in the mind. But if we don't know the right amount, it will take us to restlessness. On the other hand, certain amount of tranquility, certain amount of calmness is required. But if we don't know the limit of it, it will take us to kind of drowsiness, sleepiness, a completely lethargic state of mind. So who is the one telling us, okay, which one is good, which area is now powerful? Is the mind in a well-balanced state? So that is the mindfulness, sati. So you can see it's the in-between factor. So Dhamma Vicaya Virya Piti, that the investigative quality, the effort, and the rapture is in one side, making the mind more active. Passadhi Samadhi Upekka, that is the tranquility, concentration, and the equanimity, makes the mind more tranquil, calm, relaxed. So these 2 sides are monitored and doing the balancing completely by the sati, the mindfulness. So therefore, Buddha mentioned, okay, mindfulness is essential every time. Maintain that continuously as much as possible. Let it observe the mind. Let it monitor the mind. And indicate you, so how you need to do the balancing. So if the mind is in a very balanced equipoise, then we can say we are in a very good emotional well-being. So you can see this is deep in a way. And this is something more practical. It is not simply a kind of a theoretical something. Rather, through various mechanisms, through various strategies, we need to improve these different qualities. It's very much like you are tuning your, say, guitar. Very much like tuning your lute. So that's why Buddha once mentioned this to one venerable called Sona. Actually, he was quite frustrated. He wanted to give up the whole practice. He wanted even to destroy. Actually, he was an ardent practitioner. He was practicing walking meditation to a higher level. But unfortunately, he couldn't achieve anything. He was looking forward to, say, achieving arahanthood, but he couldn't make it. So he became utterly frustrated. And he thought of giving up the whole training, and he thought of destroying. And then Buddha approached him and asking, how are you going to tune the lute? Say in today's terms, how are you tuning the guitar? How are you tuning the violin? So there are various threads available, and you need to properly tune it. First, you may be tuning it, strengthening it in a more grosser way, and then the refined tuning has to happen in a more subtle way. So likewise, mind also, there are various these different factors governing the mind, influencing the mind. So if we know their functions, now it's a matter of tuning them, properly balancing them. So this is a kind of a mechanism available in the mind. So these are certain activities or certain attributes available in the mind. Now, if we have some understanding about them, now Buddha talks about 5 faculties. So there are certain attributes available in the mind. So mind has to have faith. Mind has to have effort. Mind has to have, say, concentration. Mind has to have wisdom. Mind has to have mindfulness. So there should be various methods to develop them, to control them. And by looking at their situation, how to refine them, balance them. It's a completely mental training now we are talking. And when these things are fairly recognized, and when a person has a thorough understanding about them, so then we can say he's a seasoned meditator, a very good practitioner who has a thorough understanding about mindfulness practice, and particularly in the vipassana. So the interesting thing is, and he has a capacity to regulate negative emotions. It's not that he is completely free from negative emotions, but he knows how quickly he can come back to the middle range. He has a very good resilience in today's terms. So maintaining a very good positive affect, well-being in his mind. Now he is kind of managing his mind. It is not that the whole society is making him happy. There are many challenges going through, but the society and the other people have less influence into his mind, because internally he is more powerful in a way. He knows how to make his mind happy, maintain the emotional balance, emotional well-being, irrespective of the external situations. And here Buddha mentioned, if he is able to achieve a freedom of mind, freedom of mind indicates that through the understanding, so he has given up all the conditioned phenomena, understanding their vulnerability, understanding their impermanence, understanding their unsatisfactory nature, understanding their non-governable situation. So he has taken his mind to a different level. Because he understood all these things are not trustworthy. I can't depend on them. They are not mine. How about keeping the mind completely free of them, not attaching to them, not associating any of them, because they are not giving me a fulfillment. They're not giving me a kind of satisfaction, a lasting satisfaction. So how about achieving the mind to a kind of a state where it doesn't associate even any of these conditioned phenomena, and keeping the mind completely free? So there Buddha mentioned vimuttatta atthitang. So if he is able to achieve that, so mind remains calm, mind remains tranquil, and there is no agitation. And mind is coming to a kind of a happy state. It's not an elated state, by the way, the more equanimous state. And there is no agitation at all. So there Buddha mentioned, being unagitated personally attains Nibbana. Now mind has quenched. There is no inner desire, there is no inner kind of a yearning, inner thirst, inner demands, but mind feel contented, mind feel happy, but basically having nothing. So this is a kind of a contradicting situation. Now, people think, okay, you want everything for you to be happy. But here, mind has given up everything because it has thoroughly understood their true nature. You can't have complete happiness if you are dependent on them. So he has given up all and taken the mind to a different level. Okay, mind is kind of a equipoise, owing nothing, gaining nothing, or belonging nothing, possessing nothing, but it has its own contentment. It has its own power. It has its own strength. So that's why if we come to the last one, so that is the Arahant, the fully enlightened being. So this is a simple verse I have taken from the Theragatha mentioned by Venerable Rahula. So after he became an Arahant, so what he is talking about his achievement. Tankamam ahang ujjitva. That means having thrown off those sensual pleasures. So various kinds of sensual desires. So he has abandoned them. Chetva marasa bandhana. So I have cut off the bondage of the Mara, the evil one. That means all the defilements are uprooted. Samulam tanham buhya. So all the craving-related things are pulled out. So he has uprooted all craving, indicates all the desires are abandoned. Now the interesting part here is Siti Bhutosmi Nibbutoti. So I have become cool and realized Nibbana. So you can see this is the final achievement, what Buddha is aiming, and so you're kind of directing us. So a kind of cooling effect. There is no inner thirst. There is no more expectation coming out asking this and that from the conditioned world, because you know their true nature. It's really a profound understanding, helping you to give up these things because they don't give you satisfaction. And now the mind has come to a state where it is happy by itself, by understanding the true nature. Depending on this profound understanding, it is in a more calm, relaxed state, is cooled, and has realized Nibbana. So you can see the well-being has come to another level. And in the ultimate sense, we can say this is the completion of the well-being, or we feel comfortable, irrespective of the whole, even the whole world is collapsing, still the mind of this Arahant remains calm, remains cool. So that is a very interesting area. So with that, I like to conclude today's Dhamma sermon. And after a little bit of practice, then we can discuss this topic again. If you have any questions, if you have any doubts, we can discuss. Now I like to invite all of you to participate in a little bit of practice session. May you sit in a comfortable position. You can keep your body straight, keep the head straight, neck straight, shoulders in a relaxed position, and keeping your arms in a more relaxed manner, maybe on your lap or on your knees. And you can keep your eyes gently closed. And come back to yourself. You can take a deep breath, hold it for a while, and slowly release. Come back to yourself. Be with yourself. Be comfortable with yourself. Don't think about past issues and matters and all your say, mistakes. Now let them go. You drop them aside and try to live in the present moment. And don't think about the future, various matters, expectations, beliefs, plans. Keep them aside for a moment. Relax yourself. Reduce the weight of your mind. And just try to be with the body. How you feel right now? How are you feeling about the body? Are there any pains available? Are there any aches available? Or are you overall feeling comfortable? Come back to yourself. Again, take a deep breath. Hold it for a while. Slowly release. Now see whether you can recognize these subtle sensations. Your eyes are gently closed. Probably you can feel a subtle sensation at your eyes. And lips are gently touching. There may be a soft sensation there as well. Don't trust upon your thumbs by the tongue. Just keep the tongue at its root. And overall, don't have any tension in your face. If you have any tension in the face, any facial muscles, tissues, just release them. Feel comfortable, feel relaxed. And have a slight smile. We are going to enjoy the present moment. The mind feel lighter, the body feel comfortable, and we are enjoying the present moment. And as we further moves down, probably you can recognize how clothes are touching the body. Certain areas are a little tight, and there may be little touch sensations here and there. Try to recognize some of them. How clothes are touching the body here and there. So slowly, we are coming inside. Developing body awareness. And as we further move down, probably you can feel heart vibration or rising and falling of the abdomen. Try to be with some inhales and exhales or risings and fallings. Allow the body to breathe naturally. Step back and watch. Don't allow the mind to get distracted. Try to recognize each in-breath, each out-breath, or each rising, each falling in a more comfortable manner. Try to enjoy each rising, try to enjoy each falling. We are joyful about this little bodily activity. As we breathing in, the abdomen comes forward, rising. So we are happy about it. Being with it, not asking anything. And when the exhaling happens, the abdomen comes back, falling, and we are happy about it. Experiencing it wholeheartedly, accepting it, just being with it, not thinking anything else. Don't encourage thinking. Try to keep the mind quiet and giving more emphasis onto this bodily experience. Again, take a deep breath, hold it for a while, slowly release. Be with yourself, relax yourself. There is nothing much to do. Simply try to be with each inhale, each exhale, or each rising, each falling. Either you can keep your attention at the nostrils, or you can keep your attention at the abdomen. Select one of them. Don't split your attention. Just select one of them and keep recognizing each inhale, each exhale. Finding out the proper balance. Not putting too much effort, and again not being kind of lethargic, allowing the mind to be sort of drowsy, rather keeping it little active, but not restless, agitated, comfortably being with each inhale, each exhale, trying to taste it, tasting each inhale, tasting each exhale, mentally being with it. And once you are feeling comfortable and confident, you can look at subtle aspects of breathing. How in breath going in, from which nostril it is going in, from which nostril the out breath going out, and is the in breath cool or warm? Is the out breath cool or warm? Try to recognize. A little bit of curious, investigating about the breathing. Where is it touching? Or compared to the previous in breath, how about the present in breath? Is it longer or shorter? Compared to previous out breath, how about the present out breath? Is it longer or shorter? Or are you experiencing the first or the beginning of this in breath, or currently experience the middle part of it, or the last part of it? So are you being in the gap in between in breath and out breath? So try to recognize the whole cycle, beginning, middle, end, gap, beginning, middle, end, again gap, beginning, middle, end, again a gap, kind of a cyclic nature of this breathing process. Try to breathe with it, carefully recognizing. So once the mindfulness and clear comprehension is fairly improved, you can continue your practice either in your typical Kayanupassana or maybe Vedananupassana or Chittanupassana. You can continue your practice, usual practice. So now we have come to the last part of the clarity of mind through mindfulness session. So if you have any questions related to today's Dhamma sermon, or if you have any questions related to your practice, so we can spend some time discussing them.
I'd like to invite Dhananjaya to present this question.
Thero Sarnai, much merits to all of you. Bhante, I have two questions, rather comments. One is with regards to mindfulness word and also today's session. So people say money is not everything, but my friend said money is very close to everything. So that is what he said. And we had a session, Bhante, recently for in-service advisors of the Education Ministry. And at that session, one of the participants asked this question: when you say mindfulness, it gives a interpretation that mind is full. So the way I answered was that if you go and because we were taken around the Aranya Nisarnavane also at that day, I said when we are in a present moment, what happens is we don't enjoy the environment, but we entangle with the past and the future. So try to understand the present moment and enjoy the present moment. That is my first question. Second question is, Pante, with regards to my meditation. I do the walking and the sitting meditation in the morning. So what I do is, since I have to go to office, I fix an alarm time and do it. So in mainly sitting meditation, at the last part of it, I feel I can't remember anything. So I'm not sure whether I have fell asleep. And so once the alarm goes on, only I wake up. So I would, with respect, I would like an answer for that, Bhante.
Yeah, so the interesting question about mindful or mindful. So basically, this is something pictorially represented that one is going with a child, a mother or father going with a child to look at something, and there are certain beautiful sceneries there, but the child, the father or mother simply look at this outside scenery, but his mind is full of a lot of other things, as you mentioned, what is going to do in the office, maybe what are his debts, what are the contributions, what he has done in the past. So his mind is completely occupied. So that is we call as mind is full of many things, full of many activities, full of many signs, full of many thoughts, imaginations. And the other thing is being mindful. That means that little child don't have much expectations, don't have much regrets. He's happy. And he simply see the scenery. Say it's a beautiful mountain. So he simply see the mountain. That's all his mind is having. That is where in the present moment, okay, you can enjoy the present activity. Maybe a little kind of a little sound, birds chirping, kind of a sight. And so therefore, mindfulness takes us to this present moment awareness, where you are fully aware of what's happening right now, not taken away by various distractions. And even at another level, now if you further develop mindfulness and particularly come to the vipassana, where your mind is fully aware, even without anything. Mind is there, the awareness is there, and it's a kind of a penetrative awareness. And so that's very much like coming to the very origin of the mindfulness. So in one time, actually, one Brahmin called Unnaba, he come and asked from the Buddha, Bhante, what is the refuge for the mind? So this mind is completely bewildered. This mind is completely distracted. So there are various thoughts generated because of various sights. There are various thoughts generated because of various sounds. There are various thoughts, complications generated because of smells, tastes, and tangibles. And there are various other thoughts as well. So anyway, the mind is in a complete confusion. So what is the refuge for this type of mind? So then Buddha answers, it is the mindfulness. And interestingly, then this Unnaba Brahmana, so he asks, Bhante, what is the refuge for mindfulness? Sati. Then Buddha say it is the vimutti, the freedom of the mind, where mind is completely free from any phenomena, any kind of image appearing in the mind, any kind of an entanglement happens in the mind. So mind has found its freedom. When the mind has found its freedom, so that is the solace for mindfulness. So that is the home of the mindfulness, or the origin of the mindfulness. So there's another level. So at first level, we are talking about the present moment, establishment of mindfulness. So you have certain present activity, kind of a present phenomena. So rather than imagining anything, fabricating anything, so you are trying to be established in the present moment phenomena. There you are mindful. There you have established mindfulness. So that is where we start. Satipatthana. And then Buddha mentioned, okay, now you progress. You examine what you have already established in mindfulness. So how those phenomena are behaving. So what are their characteristics, how their nature, the true nature. The more and more you understand their true nature, so that insight, so that wisdom helps to abandon those, because you find that they can't give you satisfaction. They can't give you kind of a safety. They are beyond your control. So as a result of that, no point of holding them, no point of grasping them. So thoroughly, the more you understand their true nature, so the grasping becomes less and less. Letting go becomes more natural. Ultimately, the mind is released, mind is freed. But now Buddha say, okay, after this practice, now this is called Satipatthana Bhavana. So after this practicing part, even though the mind is released, still you can't maintain it. You need a systematic path to do that. So that is where the Sila Samadhi Panya is now practically recognized by the yogi. Okay, this is where I need to be virtuous. This is where my mind has to be concentrated. A kind of a clarity of the mind has to be available. And these are the areas I need to further develop through the wisdom. So likewise, he is now developing the path, Noble Eightfold Path. So that is where he is more and more keeping the mind unattached, undefiled, free from any attachments. And basically, the effortless type of mindfulness is there. So mindfulness in the keyword, even though we call it mindfulness as a kind of an umbrella term, so it has many areas, if you would say. It's a kind of evolving quality.
Okay. Thero
Yeah. And you had another question. What's that?
It's regarding my the practice I do.
Right.
When I do the sitting meditation, I fix the alarm the time to complete, say 20 or 30 minutes. But at the latter stage of the meditation, I can't remember anything. I'm not sure whether I am sleeping or when the alarm goes on only I come to the present state. Then I mindfully stand up and do the normal rituals. So is it sleep or the I cannot differentiate that.
Yeah, you can verify that by further developing, say, walking meditation. Actually, during the walking session, try to recognize certain subtle aspects of various sensations. When your right foot is touching the ground, what are the sensations available? Try to see them clearly. And when your left foot is touching the ground, there are various sensations happening, and try to see them clearly. So what we are trying to do here is actually improving mindfulness as well as the clear comprehension. A little bit of more clear comprehension. You are carefully examining what is really going on. So this careful examination, clear comprehension, helps you to understand what's really going on during your sitting session. So this clear comprehension plus mindfulness is fairly improving your wakefulness in the mind. So then you become less prone to sleepiness, on the other hand. So you are going through a subtle involved in a kind of a evolution during your sitting session. You can recognize what is really going on. Am I falling asleep, or am I slipping to something? Or am I still fully aware of what is really going on? So likewise, here we are trying to improve wakefulness within us so that the whole experience can be comprehended properly.
Much merit, Thero Sarnai Swaminathan.
Thero Sarnai.
Bhante, there are two written questions. One is there a book, research paper by Goldman?
Yeah, actually, when I'm sending this, what you call this presentation, I have indicated that actually this it is Healing Emotions. That is the Daniel Goleman's book I have referred here. And there's another interesting article by Professor Padmasiri De Silva, Mental Balance and 4 Dimensions of Wellbeing, that is also referred. So those references are indicated in the presentation, that when Shalika is circulating, distributing the presentation, that you may get that information also.
Okay, Bhante, thank you.
The book referred by Daniel Goleman is called Healing Emotions.
The other question is, how do you maintain even-mindedness when faced with things so difficult and hard, like sickness and losing family and friends? What can I do to do more balance when faced with these things? Is it matter of practicing my meditation and improving the ability to block out the past and future and focus on the present?
I don't say that it is completely you are trying to escape from the past, the future, and you are trying to be in your cell-like thing. Rather, the practice helps us to bear all these things. And it's developing certain amount of resilience, a kind of a forbearance. So, I mean, these things are unavoidable. As I mentioned, say the world is really chaotic. The whole, say, body going through sicknesses, aging, and all that is unavoidable. So how, even when we are going through these ups and downs of the lives, that vicissitudes of the life, that we are going through gain and loss, fame and ill fame, and the other side is praise and blame, and happiness and the suffering. So these are the ups and downs of life. So the teaching, the practice help us to maintain kind of an equipoise in the mind, even when we are going through these ups and downs. So that's the interesting part, actually. So what happens here typically is that we always jump to the happy side, the positive side, and get depressed into the negative side. So when we lose someone, when you lose our job, when you lose our, say, whatever the gains, and when someone has blamed, and when there's a kind of ill fame, kind of an unhappy thing happen, so we completely become depressed. So we go to the complete negativity, kind of a collapsed. But how about coming back quickly? How about taking yourself uplifted to the middle quickly? So that is a skill that we need to develop. So the mindfulness practice help us to achieve it. That's what we need to understand, not within a day. So please don't think that we can achieve it within a week or something, but we need a certain amount of practice to do that. So slowly, that's what I have mentioned. So these parameters now we are developing, these skills we are developing, like effort we are developing, like faith we are developing, like mindfulness we are developing, concentration we are developing, wisdom we are developing. So these actually help us to strengthen the mind, rather than now mind is completely under the influence of defilements, hindrances. Now it has some strength taken from these positive qualities. Now you are not a completely helpless person. Rather, your mind has certain capacity inbuilt to that now, strengthened to that. And as I mentioned, now mindfulness will tell you, okay, what are the areas now further you need to develop. Now it's a kind of a self-monitoring process, kind of a kalyana mitra. It will tell you, okay, these areas still you are lacking. You need to further develop. You need to abandon all these something unhealthy areas. So likewise, it's a kind of purification process started. Slowly, you become fairly independent from these other external affairs. So it is not that you are completely cutting off them. Rather, you still can be with them. Your family friends or your, say, family members or other activities of the society, you can go with them, you can move with them, but still you have your own freedom. The mind has its own strength to bear all these things. So that is what, I mean, slowly we are developing. It is something that we are not immediately, but slowly we are developing. So even when society or the situation is bad, negative, still you are not much affected by it because internally you are happy, internally you are satisfied, internally you are more in a stable mindset.
Thank you, Bhante. Now I would like to invite Kumudini to unmute yourself and present the question.
Thank you, Shalika. Bhante, I have one question and then another one. I don't know whether nothing related to today. I have been following some Abhidhamma thing on TV, and it talks about, you know, the thought moments and all that. So I was thinking about the Bahyas thing when the Buddha told him, when you see something, see it, and then that's it, sort of thing. So I was wondering,
Yes.
So you see something, you're not supposed to recognize it. How do you stop it? Because I was thinking, it was explaining all these thought moments that come.
Yeah, thing is, if you think, you can't do it. If you think, yeah, if you think about it, you can't do it. But when you practice, you can achieve it.
So you're not supposed to recognize even, Bhante? When
No,
you
that's
see
the thing.
something.
No, recognition may be going through, but it does not promote thinking. You may recognize, but still with a calm, relaxed mind, not even a thought available. So that's very, I mean, very difficult to understand theoretically how such mentality is possible. Because we typically think, okay, if the mind is to be available, it has to have a thought. So that's the typical understanding that most of the people are having. But interesting thing about the practice is, now even when you are walking, say walking happens, various sensations happen, but the mind is quiet. No inner chatter, no thoughts. So this is achievable. And similarly, when you see things, seeing has happened. But mind is not mixed up with it. Mind has not messed up by itself, or mind has not disturbed by that sight. Similarly, a sound has happened, you have heard a sound, but it didn't disturb the mind. The clarity of the mind is intact. So this is something that you need to one need to experience, and I hope you already have experienced that to some extent.
Yes, but the recognition doesn't happen either. Supposing you see something, you recognize it, right?
Yeah, I think recognition happens. Recognition,
okay.
But it is a kind of mere recognition. It is not that you are, you know, like now say there are 100 people available and you are looking at the crowd and there are many people available. If you want, you can particularly look at on a person. You are interested about someone of a particular friend. So then you are distinctly recognize that person. So that is one way of looking at it. But you are simply looking at the crowd, you are glancing the crowd, you see that many are there, but you are not interested about a particularly about a particular person. So that distinct recognition is no more available. So you are
Right.
not distinctly narrowing down a particular object and paying special attention to that. So that is the function of the vijnana, the typical, narrowing down, particularly paying special attention and then adhere to that. Your mind is well focused to that, concentrated there and attached to that. So that process has stopped. But you
Right.
still see kind of a glancing happens. Mind has this kind of a meta awareness, kind of a overall awareness is there, but not particularly hooked up with anything.
Okay, I understand. Bhante, I have another comment to make about today's thing. It's talking about the mundane things that give people happiness, having friends and all that stuff. So that is so contrary to the path of the Buddha Dhamma, where you don't seek that.
No, I don't think. Now, say for example, now Venerable Anand or Venerable Sariputta. Now they are very good close friends. And
But
so
Kalyana
in the
Mitras, yeah.
Kalyana Mitras, yes. So in the Sasana, the Sabbrahmachari, so they are the colleagues. So when we are going through our practice, so there are like-minded people and they become our friends, they become our colleagues, they start encouraging us, they become an example to us. So likewise, it is not that we become a completely selfish individual, rather we ourselves become an example and others are also helping us. So likewise, a kind of a society. That's why Buddha generated this Sangha as a society, Sangha society. So people are living harmoniously, even though they are coming from different clans, different ethnicities, still they come and live harmoniously as a Sangha, as a community. So therefore, I don't think it is completely cutting off everyone and you being a selfish individual. Rather, this communal living is also there.
In other words, you have to be selectively choosing your friends who will sort of not distract you from the path.
Yeah, to
Those
some
are the
extent.
friends that will give you happiness too.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. I mean, on the thing is now, further, the more you are matured, then actually you can be a more influential factor to the others. It's not that then you are not much selecting, but you are not much affecting by their presence.
Affected, right?
The more you become more stronger.
Right.
Previously you can't. You are more selective because still we are weaker. So their words are affecting us. Their presence are affecting us, and their way of looking at it affects us. And if they condemn us, then it will affect us because still our mind is in a little vulnerable way. But later, more and more, we become stable. Even others say come kind of disturbing words, not much having a big impact. You can quickly come back to the the equanimity of the mind. So it's a kind of a long process, by the way. So likewise, there's a evolution happens within oneself.
On the other hand, Bhante, do you not sort of not want to associate too much with people who sort of, that happens naturally.
Naturally, definitely.
Naturally.
Yeah. So
Yes.
there are certain people that you already understood, okay, no point of associating them and they are not going in the proper path. I can't correct them. They are beyond control. So you simply ignore them. So have to forget about them.
Thank you, Bhante. Thank you very much. Thero Saranai.
Thero Saranai.
Geeta, please present your question.
Bhante, I have two questions regarding metta. One is, quite often people say, oh, so-and-so is sick. When you do your practice, can you direct metta to that person? I'm just wondering, it seems a bit contradictory to the fact that metta is this universal feeling. So, but we often say this, please direct it to so-and-so, he's going through a difficult time. Is this contradictory, or I hear it a lot, so I'm wondering.
Yes. No, I think I feel if we completely say that I am in a more supramundane level, no more I am talking about this typical mundane person, my mother, my father, my son, my daughter, my relative. So I am not talking about it at all now. I am in a more supramundane level. So I feel it is also somewhat artificial, like, where we can respect this typical traditional or conventional reality, where my mother is there, my father is there, my son is there, my daughter is there, my teacher is there. So likewise, we give that due respect, and we keep them there in the proper position. And if they need a requirement, if they have any need, accordingly I can help. So this is also something. But on the other hand, on a supramundane level also, one can operate, okay, I mean, these are mere conventions. So I know them as mere conventions. And anytime, say, I am able to take away my mind, free my mind from all this and keep the mind unattached, completely free. So there is another potential or another capacity one may have. So therefore, I feel now, say for example, now when Mahaprajapati Gautami, when she wants to pass away, so she come and inform the Buddha, Bante, now the time has come for me to pass away. So please let me pay the last respect. So Buddha allowed that. And when she is going away, now Buddha even go behind her till the door and given a kind of a respect. And similarly, when Venerable Sariputta want to pass away, attain final Parinibbana, he also formally come to the Buddha and explain and inform, Bhante, I have just 7 days available. I am going to pass away. The final Parinibbana has attained. Please give me permission. And Buddha was silent. So basically, it's through the silence, so he had understood it. And Venerable Sariputta, and he actually requested, okay, give some sermon and etc. And he did that. And then he is going. Buddha again seems that went to some extent as a respect, as a gratitude, and then he left. So likewise, so understanding our context, understanding our social context, understanding our position, our responsibilities, I feel it is necessary, rather than ignoring all and thinking that we are in a more higher level and all these things are invalid now. So then we become more artificial, and then we can't get along with the others. Then we are in a kind of a conflicting situation. That's why even when the Buddha has established monastic rules, it is common to everyone, even to the Arahants. So he hasn't exempted Arahants from the monastic code. Now, typically, monastic code represent the discipline. Now, Arahants are already disciplined. They don't need further disciplining. But they also have to adhere to all the rules and regulations of the monastic code. And they have to respect to the other elderly monks. They may not be Arahants, but still they have to respect. So all that monastic code they have to follow. So I feel Buddha has recognized these typical social norms for the well-being of the society. So then only we can, in a more cohesive manner, as a family, as a group, as a family, as a society, everybody can live harmoniously, because everybody knows everyone's responsibilities, liabilities, etc., etc. Then we can live in a more harmonious manner.
The second question about metta is, when I practice, start by directing metta. I take myself as the first object of metta, and may I be well, may I be happy, and so on. So right. I was talking about this, and someone said to me, how do you distinguish this kind of self-love from selfishness? Where is the difference? What's the difference? Yeah.
So selfishness basically is the opposite, I would say, where you always want to satisfy yourself. You don't care about the others. And even though others have many interests, others have their own needs, you don't care about them. I need my satisfaction. I need my desires to be fulfilled. So that is the more selfish attitude. But on the other hand, say you have certain friends, okay, I have, say, unconditional love towards them. So you have many friends, you have unconditional love towards them. And then you are going to further. So everybody, for every beings, I have unconditional love. So you are not expecting anything after. It is not that the kind of a business kind of a, rather unconditionally you are distributing loving kindness, emanating loving kindness. You are not asking anything from them either. You are not asking anything in return, but you emanate loving kindness to the whole universe. So that is the best form of loving kindness. And again, the important thing is ultimately the mind get liberated. Mind get completely open, no boundaries and no limitations, and no particular group. Everybody is included. Metta Cheto Vimutti. Complete liberation of the mind through loving kindness. Your loving kindness is not limited to particular ethnic group. Your loving kindness is not limited to particular species. Rather, the whole universe, loving kindness is emanating. So something like that. So therefore, it is completely opposite from the selfish attitudes. And that loving kindness actually include yourself as well. Not forgetting yourself. Very interesting. You can see, how Buddha has included everything.
So in this case, this is only the starting point for developing the much less self-centered. It's only the starting point. May I be very happy.
Exactly.
It's only the starting point for developing.
Because for many people, so you yourself is the most important person. Say, I first want to take care of myself. I want to feel happy. So that you recognize, okay, I have certain self-interest. I have certain self-empathy. I want myself to be happy. I want myself to be successful. So you are paying that happiness, that loving friendliness towards yourself. You feel that you are comfortable, you are successful, you are happy. And then that same amount now you are spreading to another person. The measure is that. So you already have felt that amount of satisfaction when you feel satisfied, when you feel happy, when you feel fulfilled. How about having that same amount of loving quality to another person? So now you are more and more improving so that you can achieve the same amount of loving kindness to the other person. Now very much like equal. Now you don't have much difference, yourself as another person and the other person. Now to both of you, you can have the same amount of loving kindness. Say to another group, same amount of loving kindness. Another ethnic group, same amount of loving kindness. Another different species, you have the same amount of loving kindness. And ultimately to everybody, including yourself, same amount of loving kindness. So likewise, so it's a kind of a step-by-step process. And ultimately, and you don't need to start with yourself. You can quickly jump to everybody, including you. To everybody, I have loving kindness, something like that. So when loving kindness is developed, so that's why in the Metta Sutta, Karaniya Metta Sutta, so there Buddha comes to the unconditioned love, like a mother, say, have love towards her own child. Now you have a kind of loving kindness to all the beings. And you don't need to start from yourself now because you are a seasoned practitioner in loving kindness now.
Okay, thank you, Bhante.
Yeah.
I'd like to invite Kishan to unmute yourself and present the question.
Thank you so much. So I just have a quick question, Bhante, but I think the answer probably might be difficult to sort of give within about a couple of minutes. I don't know whether you have enough time. My question is nothing to do for today's talking, of course, but the talk, and it's about Sakkaya Ditthi. The way that I have understood is about the five the eye consciousness and then the ear consciousness, and then so with you think about it, then how the Sakaya Ditti sort of forms within us. Is it the wrong way of we perceive things, or is there a better definition of it? Would you be kind to sort of explain things?
Yeah, I mean, maybe we can say it's the wrong way that how we perceive it. So basically, with respect to form aggregate, we perceive it belongs to me, or form aggregate directly represent me, myself. It is myself, and it has a controllability, or it is my part of myself. So likewise, now say consider about your body. Now immediately one can say, okay, this body is mine. This body represents myself. I am the body. Or else we can say, okay, I have this body. Body is part of myself. Or I am inside the body. So body is something large, and inside that there's an essence. So that is where my soul is. That is where my self is. So that's another way of putting at it. So likewise, with respect to body, so we have all these different way of understandings, wrong way of looking at things. Similarly to the feelings, similar to the perception, similar to the thoughts, our volitions, and similar to our various cognitions. So every time we are putting a person into it, a self into it, kind of a possession into it. So then we are thinking based upon a self, centered upon a self. So that is where we go wrong, and we create the Sakaya Ditti. But the practice helps us to unwind this whole thing, where we go through a thorough understanding, thorough practice about the body, the perceptions, the feelings, etc., so that you understand, okay, I mean, where can I find this so-called person? Where can I find this so-called I, myself? And time to time you may experience, okay, during this particular period, I didn't feel the presence of a self. Where this self has gone. So all this time I was fully mindful, I was fully aware of this whole process, but didn't feel a personality, didn't feel a presence of a self. So likewise, the practice helps us to time challenge this wrong perception, and ultimately even to penetrate this wrong perception.
Thank you so much. I think I understand the explanation. I think it is through the practice only you can remove the I. That's what I'm kind of hearing as well.
Yes, we can say so. And the other thing is that for I to happen, the person to happen, there should be a prerequisite, that is the grasping. So without grasping, you can't have the sense of I. So we have to grasp any of these aggregates, then only the presence of I going to be available. The feeling of I going to be available. So that is a kind of a rule mentioned by Punnamantani Putta to Venerable Ananda. So upadayatiko also asmiti hoti no anupadaya. The presence of I, the feeling of I, the conceit I am happens only when grasping is present. So the more we practice, the grasping becomes lesser and lesser. So the moment, the time period that if you are able to maintain mind free from grasping, during that time, you can't feel a self. So then, the mind starts going to a different understanding. Okay, there is not necessary to have a self. Things are happening smoothly, but there is no self. I was in the walking path. Everything happened. I have experienced everything, but didn't feel myself. So where is myself? So you ask the question, what has happened to me? So then you are finding out where am I? So that is where again you create yourself, by the way. It's a very interesting area. You can through the practice you start unwinding this whole thing.
Yes, when I do the walking meditation, sometimes, it is kind of really hard for me to explain that. You see some type of a figure moving, walking. That's all what you see without
Correct.
any, okay, I am walking, but, and then certain type of feelings you can sort of experience it. I think that is how I can sort of put it in a layman way, I guess. So thank you so much. I really appreciate, and I have one last question for today, and I'm planning to be in Sri Lanka and want to come and stay for about 3 days in this Chandarathana. Do I need to put that in writing and say when that I am going to be there? Is that something? What is the process, if you don't mind sharing?
If you can simply send an email, that would be easy. Then we can inform the office. Then they can simply grant you to come in. So that will make the things more easier.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bhante. Thank you very much, and thanks for your time. Gurvan Saranai.
Yeah, Thero and Sanai. Okay, Shalika, I think we can wind up the session.
Yes,
so
Bhante.
we have spent the amount of time today.
Thank you so much, and much praise to you, Bhante, for another valuable Dhamma talk. And thank you so much, Bhante, again.
Yeah. Okay, Thero and Sanai.
Thero and Saranai.